So it is what I'm talking about. We're going to call him number 2 because he's currently number 2 on the ladder. I'm pretty sure he's been number 2 on the ladder for like a pretty long time. I don't want to Google Translate the name and then like have Google Translate give me something that's really off base, because I had a lot of trouble when I was doing the Korean Invitational trying to like look at scorecards and Google translates people's names. So we're just going to go with number 2. In an actual tournament, like I would literally just like PM the player and ask them for their name, but I have no way to contact this person, so we're going to have to make do with what we have. So we have Karma Heimerdinger, Indoor Spiders, the standard champion lineup, and Mono Demacia Bannerman with Remembrance. It's not something, and 2 Purify. It's not something you usually see. So we have Bannerman, Indoor Spiders, and Karma Heim. I think this is pretty similar to some of the lineups we've already seen. So if I am nolagold with these decks, there's nothing super crazy in any of these, right? This is a pretty standard line. Usually when you get to the finals, either something's like super off the wall or everything's pretty standard. Okay, yeah, so it's actually pretty similar to... Okay, nothing crazy here, right? The only real thing of note is like there's no Steel Tempest. There's only 2 get excited, but yeah. Karma Heim. Yep. That's the video. There's that. Okay, so if I'm nolagold looking at this, I probably just want to take the Karma Heim off the table. It's a very powerful deck. I don't have... If my Lucian standalone gets banned, I don't really have anything to deal with like elusives. You know, Karina... okay against Heimerdinger, not great in the face of all the denies. Draven Yetis could definitely just get elusived under, and I don't really have a lot of removal for the Heimerdinger. It's just like a couple copies of Culling Strike. Whirling Death never going to take it over. So like, yeah, I'm pretty inclined to get that Heimer Karma off the table, just because I don't feel like I have any clean answers to it. Like, it'll definitely beat at least one of my decks. Indoor Spiders, I think I've proved I can punch through. How many... Oh, there's actually no Ruination, so I'm actually feeling even better about just like leaving up this Indoor Spiders. And then the Bannerman? Do I ban Bannerman? That seems kind of wild. I'm pretty sure I banned the Karma Heim. Just take that off the table. Don't deal with that. And then if I'm number 2, looking at nolagolds on, if I'm playing with Indoor Spiders and Bannerman, I feel like I want to take Karina Ezreal off the table and just take my chances with the Lucian standalone, trying 2 the Yetis. I don't know if Bannerman beats... Like, I have no frame of reference on the Yeti Bannerman matchup. But yeah, I think what I would lock in is if I was nolagold, I would have been the Karma Heim. If I was number 2, I think I'm going to take the Karina Ezreal off the table. And it looks like the Karina was left open, so I'm going to assume that it was the standalone deck that was banned, which I also don't hate. It looks like in top 4 and the finals, both players deciding to ban the standalone deck where I would have banned the Karina Ezreal. See how it works out for him. Yeah, I figured you meant no Ruination, not indoor. Okay. Yeah, so Bannerman into Karina. As mono Bannerman, this is pretty bad for you. If I remember, yeah, there's no Noxus in his lineup, so the House Spiders wouldn't really help in this matchup anyway. So I definitely don't hate just going mono Demacia. As I said, no Ruination in this deck. Just the Karinas. So not as good of a matchup as traditional Karina decks. The Ruination definitely gets a lot of value. Just going to pick apart the early board, though. Does have a lot here. The Withering Wails, not super useful. They can get value for sure, but honestly, nolagold's hand is looking pretty weak so far. He's only going to get to play 1 spell next turn. Granted, a block here that's almost certainly coming out does mean the spell will take out this Laurent Protege, unless Bannerman comes out. I think Bannerman, like, hard swings the matchup for number 2 right now. It would be kind of a weird play, though. Like, to just play it on 1 guy. Yeah, War Chef definitely seems safer. I feel like you probably have to just throw the Grasp of the Undying at this. You get blown out by Prismatic Barrier. But, I mean, that just is what it is. This War Chef Prismatic Barrier even better than that. Oh, no, not even going to happen. So now, like, Fleet Feather and something. I don't think you're playing super heavy to, like, take out this Elise, though. Yeah, this is even fine. Elise definitely can't block this, so you're eating 6 damage. Grasp got played when you were at full health already, so, like, that doesn't feel good. So, yeah, number 2, starting off on the front foot. Karina's here, but she's not coming down for quite some time. Ladros, also not what you want to see. We are a ways off of either of them getting value. And you're going to be locked, like, because he's so loaded up on 5-cost spells, he was locked into 1 spell last turn. He only gets 1 spell this turn. He only gets 2 next turn if one of them is Mystic Shot, because he's not floating any spell mana. And I feel like you have to attack with this Elise. Do you Mystic Shot the Brightsteel Protector if it blocks, though? I feel like you can't. But maybe you have to preserve your life total, because you just Mystic Shot this. You went for the open attack instead of Mystic Shotting and then attacking, because you weren't concerned with pushing through damage. You were concerned with, like, pushing through 1 damage onto the War Chef. So if you Mystic Shot pre-combat and they play like a Garen, then you can't even attack. But here, if you Mystic Shot in response, you lose at least a Prismatic Barrier. But I don't think your opponent has Prismatic Barrier, or they would have used it on their Laurent Protege. They could have riposte. It's possible that they have riposte and didn't have Prismatic Barrier. Yeah, it's just going to take the trade. That's, yeah, it's... I don't hate it. There's a lot that could be played to stop you here. Riposte, single combat. And, like, single combat wouldn't have done anything last turn. So, it's still something that your opponent could have. Yeah, there's the Garen. So, that's why I liked the open attack. Looks like he will just Mystic Shot that instead of trying to string it together with a Grasp of the Undying to kill Garen next turn. Because, yeah, you've already played around Riposte. Oh, Thermo Beam, that's a good one. That's a sketchy one. Your opponent does, like, Riposte is still on the table. You're pretty sure Prismatic Barrier is not there unless it was picked up over the last 2 turns. But Thermo Beam's spooky, and it does stop you from playing 2 spells on turn 7, which is, like, the first turn you get to play 2 spells. Granted, like, jamming together 2 Withering Wail doesn't really do anything. Withering Wail and a Grasp also doesn't do anything. I feel like you have to go for this Thermo Beam. And it almost... Oh, look, it's going to work out. Oh, do you have to play it on Garen or Karina? Or on Cythria? I think Garen. Because Garen's going to take over the game. Okay, yeah. I mean, like, I don't hate the Cythria hit. Your opponent doesn't have a board. So I think Garen is a little more threatening, especially because he has regen. You don't have a good hit onto him. Whereas if you stall with the Cythria... So, like, Cythria hits you on 6. Cythria hits you again with a board on 8. And then you Karina clear the board. Whereas here, Garen's going to upgrade. Karina not going to have any chance of dealing with an upgraded Garen, especially because he's got regen. I guess we have to see how strong the board would have been from the Cythria. But I think I would have liked to see the Thermo Beam go down onto the Garen. There's a second Cythria. So if we had left Cythria, they'd have, number 2 would have double Cythria and this. So I kill that. I take like 14 on the next turn. I would have had 12. Okay, so Karina, not going to get anything done anyway. Is this just game? I mean, I have spells to prevent it, but like a single riposte basically just ends it here. Yeah, it looks like the Thermo Beam targeting not actually having that big of an impact on the match. Does get a little dice. Actually, no, I want to say that it still does. Because Garen gets to attack here and upgrade. Is going to play the Swiftwing pre-combat. There's no Ruinations in nolagold's deck, so like getting hard punished for that here in the Bannerman matchup. Yeah, you could like Grasp Whale to take this out pre-combat. You hard lose to riposte. Ezreal can block this, but these two just kill you. Really not looking good here for nolagold in game 1 at least. Yeah, Cythria. I think Cythria is just the best card in the Bannerman deck, and your opponent seeing 2 of them when they're already relatively hard for you to remove and you don't have something like a Ruination just really sucks. Like, if you can, like, you have to deal with Bannerman's early game, and that's all fine and dandy. There are a lot of decks that can do that. But once you get into these later turns and it's like Cythria and Garen and another Cythria and a Swiftling Lancer, like, it gets really difficult to deal with. And I think the Ezreal decks are starting to fall off more and more. We were in a damage-based removal meta for a couple of weeks, and now that the Bannerman decks have gone for a higher curve, it's a lot harder to actually remove all their units. Ruination becomes a lot more important, so this is really just like nolagold paying the price for not having Ruination in his list. And the single combat onto the Ezreal, I believe, does just end the game. Nolagold can Glimpse Beyond to try and draw something, but for 5 mana, his options are... Actually, I guess Brood Awakening. Yeah, he could draw Brood Awakening, and that pushes through 12 damage still. It's not going to be enough because the Cythera is going to pump these two up, give him Fearsome. You're not going to have enough. Yeah, I don't think there's nothing, absolutely nothing nolagold top deck here to prevent this. And of course, gonna just be 1 damage shy of killing the Garen. Yeah, pop that off. Grass first, wait for a response, then wail in combat if they don't respond. That doesn't kill anything, because if you wait till they go to combat, this goes up to 5 toughness. Even finds the Brood Awakening, but it's not going to matter. These are 6 attack units with tough. Yeah, that's going to be game number 1 going the way of number 2. I've at least gotten half the bans right throughout this top 4 here. I guess I just respect Indoor Spiders more than Standalone. But now, yep, definitely wouldn't have banned the Indoor Spiders from number 2. I definitely think that Karmaheim was a bit scarier. But I'm not... I mean, we did just see Indoor Spiders fall to this Draven Ezra, or this Draven Katarina deck, so could see it happen again. House Spider, pretty good setup. Just passes instead, wants the 3 mana, or at least to see what his opponent does. Goes for Elise. Yeah, that's pretty good. Trifarian, Glory Seeker going to be able to challenge that out. I like the pass. You know, your opponent has to start off more aggressively than you do. You're a more mid-range deck. You can the longer the game goes on before any action happens, the more it benefits the Draven deck. So I think the pass there was really heads up. Elise is like the one card that concerns you in any capacity. Now your opponent passes. They don't have as much of a punish, so I think you can just go for the Trapper here. Or the House Spider if you want to float mana. Your turn 4 is not looking like anything special. Oh, we actually get to see number 2's hand. Oh, that's great. That's awesome, actually. Okay, so we see Brood Awakening, Chronicler, Wraithcaller, Vengeance, and Glimpse Beyond. It's been a while since I got to see both players' hands. I definitely appreciate that. So the Yeti going on top because I missed it and didn't get to say anything about it. Let's see. Turn 4, what are you worried about if you just play some dudes pre-combat? You can go, yeah, it looks like he's considering a Calling Strike into the Yeti. Play the Yeti first, see what your opponent plays. No reason to like Calling Strike first, because then if they play, it's almost certainly going to be the Wraithcaller coming down here. Maybe Brood Awakening. I'd expect Wraithcaller, though. Just sets up for the Chronicler on the following turn. And yeah, now this Calling Strike not looking particularly good. You do still have good attacks with the Trapper, though. It'll trade into either one of these. We know it'll probably trade into the Skitterer because he's got the Chronicler. And I don't think not attacking is really an option. It's really just a matter of, like, does this get blocked? Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, Mark of the Isle. Yeah, he's got Mark of the Isle. I think I like Mark Block. It's definitely better than just, like, blocking the trapper, letting the 5/5 get away. This is like one of the cleanest trades that you can get onto a 5/5, and there are definitely things that you need to vengeance over this. You could Whirling Death it, so like at least you have a punish. But this Chronicler on the following turn, gonna start to get the board really big. You have Kato the Arm, but you only have one Yeti. You don't really have a big board. Okay, so Chronicler comes down, floats the spell mana. Unless you want to go Brood Awakening, but yeah, I like the Chronicler better. Unless it whiffs. Okay, we've seen a lot of Wraith Callers whiffing today where I feel like they shouldn't have been, so. I like... do I like Kato or do I like Draven Calling Strike? I definitely know I don't like House Spider, because it doesn't block really anything. Unless you want to go for Brothers Bond. The 2 mana leftover is a little awkward. Just a pass. Interesting. Now that the Draven's out, I'd be surprised if number 2... Oh, okay, yeah, number 2 just going to pass it back. There wasn't really any punish I could think of for 1 mana. Oh, look, Brittle Steel. There's the punish. Yeah, I like getting Kato out here. If you Vengeance Kato... Nope, just going to be a Wraith Caller. This is... It's so close to being able to clean up the board. And, like, you don't have any 1 damage stuff, but, like, you still have Skitter or Brood Awakening, so I guess you can just trade out your board here. This Brothers Bond or the Brittle Steel is going to come up big, though. There's nothing actually in the hand of number 2 to stop this. You do have to be cognizant of a Vile Feast if you... Like, the one consideration here, like, obviously we know he doesn't have it, but, like, you would be playing around Vile Feast with the Brothers Bond here. And just, like, at least considering that. Okay, so going to be the Overwhelm onto the 4/1. I think I would have liked to see the Overwhelm onto the 4/2. Or onto the 2/2, rather. Just to play around Vile Feast a little bit. Obviously, he's not going to get punished for it, but... Maybe this is better because the Brothers... Like, if you do get Vile Feasted here, then Brothers Bond goes here. Or maybe Brothers Bond is never a consideration because you're Brittle Stealing this. I don't think I like an attack with this then. I think if your play is to not Brothers Bond, then I just want to hold this back. Because I don't have any other units in here. It's not like I need to make board space or anything. This thing's dying anyway. This thing's dying anyway. So yeah, I think I would have liked to see this get... Oh, he's gonna Spinning Axe. Okay. What do you have to discard for that? Oh. Was it, hold on. Honestly, not gonna lie, I forgot about the Spinning Axe. What did he discard, though? Calling Strike? Yeah, that makes sense. Calling Strike, not gonna get any value here. Let's just back it up a bit. So yeah, that was just, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I forgot about the Spinning Axe. These Draven is still so, like, out of place to me. But, yeah, nolagold pretty much completely out of gas at this point. And there's still a Skitterer and, you know, a Brood Awakening. He has a tall board, and number 2's low on life. So it looks like number 2 might just go for Vengeance, like an open Vengeance. You would have to assume you take out the big Yeti. Kato's more threatening, but you have trades into Kato. I think I'd like to see Brood Awakening and then just Vengeance, whatever Kato gives Overwhelm on the following turn. Okay, so yeah, it will be Arachnoid Sentry played out. I like either Brood Awakening or Skitterer as well. I think I like Brood Awakening more. I don't hate a pass, though. It leaves a defensive Skitterer. Nolagold's already told you he's not playing any units this turn. It's not like he'd be waiting until post-combat to play anything, so you know he doesn't have any units. You know he's got a Spinning Axe. He's only got 2 cards. This one's been held for a while. I'm not even sure what you would be reading that as. I mean, he does play, what is it, 3 Brothers Bond, so like Brothers Bond's not a crazy read if you're hand tracking. Personally, I don't hand track those, so like I'm not going to sit here and like harp on players for not doing it. I also don't play tournaments because I try to cast them, so maybe. Okay, so yeah, the Brood Awakening going to come out. It takes away the defensive Skitterer option, but I don't see anything particularly scary coming out that makes me want to like defensive Skitterer. I know that he didn't play a unit this turn, so it's pretty likely that he opens attacks. This is better against the open attack. I definitely liked saving the Vengeance for whatever Kato gives Overwhelm to on the following turn instead of just naked doing it there like it looked like number 2 was hovering at the start of the turn. Okay, Avaros and Hearthguard. I feel like you might as well run it out. Ruination is still a consideration, but if I remember correctly, number 2 wasn't running it. Yeah, number 2 doesn't run Ruination, so like I feel like you might as well run out the Hearthguard here. There's no punish for it because your opponent's board is completely full. It at least like softens up the board. Just having another 5 toughness unit seems really good to me here, but Nolagold just going to go for the open attack. Of course, Vengeance will come down onto this, and since it's not an Ionia deck, there's absolutely nothing that could stop this. He really wants Assessor? Yeah, I mean, Assessor, that's kind of always been the thing about, like, the Ash Noxus decks from previous, is that, like, you kind of need Assessor or you just fall super behind on cards. It looks like he's having a bit of trouble, like, hanging on to things with that much attack anyway. The Elixir of Iron's great. It protects the Kato, but you're about to have a pretty bad time on the backswing here. You get down the Hearthguard. Your opponent gets down Wraithcaller. Or Skitterer. Oh yeah, Wraithcaller would clog up the board so you can't Ladros next turn, so yeah. Skitterer makes more sense. Assessor. Oh, that's Glory Seeker, that's not Assessor. Ladros comes down, cuts your life in half. This can't block. Yeah, these Endure Spider decks changing from a combo deck more into like the fearsome Hecarim decks that we used to see. I definitely like that adaptation as these tournaments continue to go on. Is he just dead? If the 3 weakest things get through, that's 7 damage. So then Ladros is lethal eventually. Might as well block Kato onto this now. Well, I guess if because you're going to 1, if Ladros ever dies, then you just lose. So you probably want to prevent as much damage going on to Ladros as possible. And it's not like any of your guys are going to live here. Yeah, kind of coming to terms with the fact that he's going to 1. And Ladros, oh, he loves when you're at 1. The Brothers Bond is just not going to do anything here. He drew a unit, but it was one that can't get anything done. Glory Seeker, other than like Tall Tales, Glory Seeker was probably like the worst top deck here. But I guess that's kind of the problem with this Draven Katarina, like the Yeti deck in general, is that like you need Assessor to keep up on cards, and you have a lot of dead top decks, especially with Brothers Bond. Actually, he doesn't run Tall Tales, does he? No, he doesn't run Tall Tales. It's just like, you know, like Calling Strike does nothing. House Spider doesn't even buy you a turn. And there's you endure. Okay, so yeah, I don't think nolagold can do literally anything in this situation. As soon as this Ladros dies, the game ends. There's absolutely no healing in these regions, so... Yeah, nolagold understanding there's literally nothing in top deck. Once you're at 1 and your opponent has Ladros, like that's just the end of it, right? Hey man, what's up? Welcome to the end of the stream, actually. That was the finals of the NA portion of Duels of Runeterra 7. So I didn't actually keep track of like how accurate our predictions were on like how matchups were going to go or how the bans were going to go. I'm trying to think if that would have played out any differently had nolagold banned the Endure Wraiths. No, because I never wanted to ban Endure Wraiths. I wanted to ban Karma Heimerdinger. And then if number 2 had banned, well, number 2 won, so like obviously didn't need to change anything in the ban strategy. So yeah, the winning, let me check here. So Draven Yetis got 2nd in NA and 1st in Europe. But I want to take a look at and kind of compare the winning lineups from Europe and NA. So in NA, we had Karmaheimer. Although the Karmaheimer got banned out, I would assume most of the time, like, if you see an Ionia Piltover deck, like, that's generally what's getting banned. The Endure Spiders, and then just Mono Demacia Bannerman, not putting any of the Noxus cards in, just not having Noxus anywhere in their lineup. And then Make Actors one with Draven Yetis, Karmaheim, and the Demacia, the Championless Undying. So Karmaheim, the like, what's the word? Common thread here between EU and NA and the winning tournament deck lists. There's a little bit of variation in the lists. I don't think that's important as much as just like Karmaheim feels like it draws out bans so often and just leaves open the rest of your lineup. So we take the Karmaheims off the table, and then these two players had extremely different lineups. You know, Maycactus choosing not to run Bannerman. Number 2 going for a rather standard kind of number 2 went for like what I would argue is like the most standard tournament lineup, where you take Bannerman, you either go Mono Demacia or Noxus, you go Endure Spiders, and then generally we see Karma Ezreal instead of Karma Heimerdinger. But like as far as regional composition and deck list, there was nothing like super crazy. 3 Vengeance instead of 2 any number of Ruination is like the one kind of caveat. Only 2 They Who Endure. I think we saw that in a different list. So like it looks like these Spider decks going more towards the fearsome decks of old rather than like going all in on the Atrocity Endure combo. So it's definitely cool to see that adaptation of the deck. And then of course Maycactus coming out with like a buck wild lineup of Championless Undying and the Draven Yetis. Even going for like the Tall Tales, we didn't see nolagold running that. Nolagold and Maycactus actually had very different Draven Yeti decks. Let me pull his up real quick. Just kind of get the 2 side by side. So, you know, Draven, the Yeti Yearling, Avarosan Sentry coming in for Maycactus, which I like a lot. Not going to be the case for nolagold. Nolagold obviously went more aggressive since he did go for the Katarina. He also put in stuff like Starlight Seer. The Bloodsworn Pledge came up. You know, it didn't like do nothing. The Shunpo was pretty clutch, if I remember correctly. It might not have even gotten played. I don't actually remember. Reckoning. There's no Reckoning in nolagold's deck. So like there's 2 takes on this. Like Maycactus went a lot more mid-range with it. I don't think. Yeah, I just realized that nolagold didn't even run the Overwhelm Yeti, the Ancient Yetis. So, you know, there's definitely a lot of variations with the Yetis, and these 2 very different lists, both having a lot of success in the tournament. Hell, even the regional composition, nolagold went more on Noxus, whereas Maycactus was mostly Freljord. Maycactus was a little bit closer to 2020, whereas there's a pretty big disparity of an 8-card difference on the regional comp. So definitely interesting to see. You know, the 2 takes on this deck, both having a lot of success in the tournament. There was, Trifarian Assessor still in this deck. It would be kind of buck wild. I feel like Trifarian Assessor is kind of like the mainstay of Freljord Noxus. Like anytime you see a Freljord Noxus deck, there's a good chance that like that's the deck where Trifarian Assessor gets value. And I don't think we've really seen Trifarian Assessor in regional compositions that aren't Freljord Noxus. Like it almost just feels like a Freljord card at this point, because that's like the deck buff region. You know, it's pretty easy to fill your deck up with these 4-cost cards, these 5-cost cards, stuff like that, and then get that out. So yeah, you know, a pretty standard lineup from NA, and then a buck wild one in Europe. You know, Championless Undying isn't super out of the question. Generally, if you're not running Bannerman, you're going to be pairing Shadow Isle with your Demacia. Could be this deck, could be Thresh Lux. Some people go Karma Lux. Lux deck's not super popular though, so definitely liking this list. The Ancient Crocolith is wild, but I do really like this adaptation, as I think I had mentioned earlier before we got into the finals, where the Bannerman decks have a really hard time if you just jam a 7/7, especially if you do it on turn 4. Single combat doesn't take it out. Like, it's going to have to be riposte on a big guy, and even then you might have to pair it with single combat. Yeah, now that Trifarian Assessor is a play effect, or a summon effect rather, instead of a play effect, you can pull it out with War Mother's Call. I think we saw one Yeti War Mother deck, and that could be one of the reasons that the War Mother's Call was even in there. Of course, that did get bodied out of top 8, so didn't get to see anything cool like that, but that is going to do it for me for today. Thank you everybody so much for coming out and watching. This is going to go